Hello ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm going to be doing a follow-up of my Maestro demo, which I've recently presented to you. So this demo is going to consist of showing you how I've tried to implement the custom report, custom HTML report with embedded video artifacts for each Maestro flow run. So we're not going to focus on the setup too much. However, if you are interested in the full setup and explanations regarding that piece, I suggest you watch the previous video, which is displayed somewhere around here, and a link to that video is also going to be in this video's description. Practical mindset always tries to take some ready-made solutions, and if we don't have such, we usually build these solutions from the ground up. So in this demo, I'm going to show you one of such implementations or solutions for no cloud Maestro, native sorta custom vibe coded-ish. Yeah, not gonna lie here. As much as I hate the fakeness of AI, I actually find it useful. As I've said it many times, AI is pretty good at solving atomic tasks. It really depends on what you want to achieve with it and how precise and detailed your prompts are, which basically is a reflection of your own will, of your own perception of this reality. So this demo actually is about one of these solutions. Hop on this train and follow along. Let's go on with it.
Alright, so let's start from the very beginning. So we have this, should I say, pretty small schema. It should not be too complicated for your understanding, and you are free to, try and use and implement these in your respective organizations. As always, the schema goes like this. At first, we are gonna trigger a custom script, which is going to record all the Maestro flows that we currently have. Like specifically, and for the scope of this demo, I got 3 flows. And one is always going to fail, and another one may be flaky. But once these flows are recorded, the artifacts, which are in our case are the videos, they're going to be pushed to a specific video folder, and later on they're going to be embedded into the HTML, because the next script is going to generate the HTML file and embed the videos there based on the results. You would also be able to filter those out. Personally, I think that mobile testing may be more complex to set up, but it's much easier in terms of tests itself, because the scope of typical mobile app functionality is sort of countable, or understandable, comprehensible, and it's not that broad in the most of the cases, I guess. So yeah, it's pretty easy to define the typical user flows and do some desk design, and the regression is not that large as compared to the web application. So anyway, we're gonna generate the HTML file, we're gonna embed those artifacts into that HTML file, and then there's 2 ways we're gonna go from here. First, we're going to take a look at how it looks locally. Basically, we're gonna have to trigger yet another custom script, which is going to serve this HTML on the local server on a specific port. It also triggers the report generation, so this is a dependency for this script. And basically, that's it for the local piece. And then in terms of CI workflow, we're gonna use GitHub Actions as always, and we're gonna trigger the YAML for this specific process, and it's gonna undergo same steps are described in that YAML, and it's gonna undergo the same process, and it's going to publish the HTML on the GitHub pages, and also post a Slack message with all the useful links, such as GitHub run logs, then report link, and I guess there's something like branch and commit link, we'll see. So that's about it for the scope of this demo. Not looking pretty complicated, right? So let's switch to our IDE. Okay, so let me start the end first. So we're gonna need to boot our emulator and install the Wikipedia onto that emulator. So let's do that. And just wait for a tiny little bit for it to start and actually install the app. So here it is starting, and we see some action. That's good. And then the Wikipedia, as you can see, it has been installed on this emulator, so the icon is right here. This is neat stuff. So we have set up our end. Now, this part is basically the heart of this demonstration, the heart of how this reporter works, or this setup works. We got 3 custom scripts. This is vibe coded, I'm not gonna lie, but still, if it achieves the given task, in my mind, then it just does its job. You still have, to read it through a little bit to understand more. But the main piece here is that you can either provide the flow paths to your specs if you wanna do recordings for specific specs, or specific flows. Or you may leave this array empty, and here's an example for it. And if in case you leave this array empty, it's just going to, it's just going to find all the YAMLs within the Maestro root directory. And it's going to return the YAML files, which is like an array of any type in this case. So the next important piece of this schema is to run Maestro record and capture test statuses. So this function does exactly that. It's a pretty big one, should I say. And what it does, it creates recordings directory, which we have set up earlier on as a variable. Then it records the flow straight away. And before marking it as passed or failed, it creates like a temporary MP4 file. And then it executes this child process, like a child command. At first we declare it right here, and then we execute it a bit later on with the exec-sync command, which is like basically similar to what you can do via terminal, just more conveniently constructed and stored. And it's gonna mark it as passed or failed depending on the status. And if it's passed, it's going to save the permanent artifact, video artifact, with the postfix as passed, and if it's failed, respectively with the postfix of failed. And it's all, I guess that's all you need to know about this function. And then there is the main function, which actually executes that condition in regards to the spec paths. So if you provide specific paths, it's going to execute just those paths. If you don't provide any paths and leave the flow paths constant as an empty array, as in our case, it's just going to search within this directory for all the YAML files basically within this directory. There's gonna be some conditions, so if it hasn't found anything, it's gonna print it into the console, or log into the console, and then if it has found something, at least something, right, for each of these flows to record, which is an array, it's going to actually trigger Maestro record command. When all recordings are completed, we are also logging some information to the console. We count passed scenarios, we count failed scenarios, and we log the recordings directory for where the artifacts are going to be stored. In our case, this is this folder. And we also return the summary for possible future development. If I will come up with more customized solutions for this framework, I'm sure as hell going to implement those. Cool, and we actually the script is and the main function is being invoked here within the same module, so that if we run this JS via node, it's just gonna execute this script. So without further ado, let me find this command which triggers the record all. Yeah, so this is the command, and as usual, in order not to have lots of old ass artifacts, at first we remove the contents of the folder with the artifacts, and then we run this record flows.js script. So let's do just that. Okay, so I've triggered the recording. It found 3 flows, just as I've said at the beginning of this demo. Here are all the paths, and it just started the recording for the first one. Here you can see it launched the app in the emulator, and the first flow has passed, and it's now rendering the video. And we can see the name of this temporary one, because it's gonna be renamed based on the result of this test. Yeah, so if you look here to my left, you'll see that we got our first artifact, and now the second test is running. And these should have, it has the invalid selector, which doesn't exist on this page, on this screen. Can get used to the mobile naming sometimes, yeah. But I guess that mobile direction, especially mobile automation, should be even more popular, since there's tons and tons and tons. The amount of the smartphone devices in our current world is I believe it's practically inquantifiable. So yeah, so here we are uploading another video, and as you can see to my left, it is now marked as failed, just as in the logs. And then the last one triggers. The last flow is now running. There's a bunch of assertions, it all passed, I guess, and let's wait for the video to be rendered and pushed to the recordings folder or directory. Since we're using the local rendering, it takes some time, should I say. And if you scale that up, that might be, that might result into some significant execution time, but I don't think, and it pretty much depends on the application. So on the application complexity, functionality, integrations, and so on. So I would assume if we don't have like lots of flows in our app, or we're still early with testing it, I would assume that this approach would most likely do the trick. So when all tests have been recorded, all flows have been recorded, the recordings are saved to the recordings folder, as you can see here. And yeah, since we had one failure, this process executes with code 1, so we are pretty much done with that. Now, since we have our artifacts, we are able to generate the report. Let me switch to the script that generates this report. So here we got our configuration. The next thing we have is we invoke a function which gets all recordings, and it removes like all the postfixes, so that our tests can be later on displayed in the actual HTML report on your screen when it's rendered, so they can see only the flow name, not the postfixes, which may confuse you a little bit. And then we got the function to actually generate the HTML report, and here we got the actual HTML code for that, which is getting returned. And as a part of this code, it also embeds the videos into this report, so you'll see what I mean in just a minute. And it also allows you to filter tests based on status or refresh the report, which corresponds to page refresh. And this is the main function which does the whole thing. So once the script is executed, we store the report path, and then we open this report in our default browser. So this is also done with a specific command, and the report is going to be generated and stored, I guess, in the test report folder right here beneath the artifacts. Now, this command is called report serve, and it also removes the contents of previous reports from the test report folder, and then it serves the report by executing this script. It like generates it here, and then it serves it here. So this script is pure infrastructure. Like everything is tied to the specific port here. So you would need to kill the process on that port, and then and only then serve this report. So here we set our port, then we create the server, like declare that function. What we do next, we actually execute the kill port function right here, and then we start the server right here. As you can see, the URL here is dynamic, so the main variable which makes all of this actually run is set, that's a constant. And we are also logging some stuff just to be aware of what's going on. So let me execute this command right now. Report serve. Let's go. So it happens super quickly. And here's how this report looks. So the main part here, or the main parts, are the videos that I'm embedded into the report, and you can play them back. You can also download them, so this is like a standard browser player, should I say. And it shows you the logs on the videos, the actual sequences of the flows for both passed and failed. And you can see the passed are marked as green, red is failed, of course. You can filter them by their status right here, or refresh the report. It also shows the time, but this is like default ISO string, I guess, if I'm not mistaken. Never mind. So this is pretty convenient, once again, for the apps which are in early development, or should I say like probably in active development as well. It's just that if you're using this approach, it may take like more time to execute the tests. But I don't think that this is something critical, since the mobile apps which are in early or mid development stages are not like iterated a lot with. So I mean, there's not gonna be, typical agile. It's more like, should I say, like a waterfall. It's not as frequent, so the mobile releases may not be as frequent. But it also like depends on the company and on their release cycle and their overall SDLC process. So yeah, here's what we have. At the end of the day, here is what we have. So that was for the local part, and let me now trigger the actual YAML. So here we got our YAML, which is called no cloud plus report Android tests. So let me trigger that from master, and I guess it's gonna appear here once it's triggered. Yeah, so I'm just gonna open this piece. So like what it does, let me go to my report YAML right here. It consists of several stages. So it checks out the repo once again, sets up the dependencies, environment, everything like modules. I guess the main step of it all is to start, like, is the one that starts the emulator. So not much has changed since like my initial implementation demo, because like the overall approach is the same. It's just that we are now, instead of just running the tests, we are now running the recordings for these tests. So we record the results and we generate the report, and we push those results to the report. And that's all we're doing basically. We got the generate report step, then we got the upload artifact. We prepare the GitHub pages content, we do some manipulations with the folders, with the paths, because it's not the whole repo that we're gonna be pushing to the GitHub pages. Then we publish the recordings and report to GitHub pages. We print report URL, and if at least if the and then we fail this whole flow in case, like, this is a specific step, and we are going to fail the whole flow in case the record flow's outcome is failure. So, which basically means if at least one test failed, we're going to fail this stuff. However, some steps need to be executed at all times, such as notify Slack, for example. So it executes at all times. It's got its own env section, and also it's got the run command, which produces a Slack message, and I'll show you this Slack message now. So it's going to produce a message like this at the very end of it. It's going to have the status, repo, commit, latest commit to that repo. You can set up anything you want here. It's also going to contain the run and report links. These are the console logs, the logs from the GitHub job run, and this is the actual HTML report, which goes like this. So I've decided just not to wait until it completes and show you everything from the start. It's just gonna be tons of logs right here, nothing special, but this is a beauty. And if you want something done right, you may try and do it yourself. And I also now understand the Maestro Cloud and like other solutions as well. It takes time to build those tools, or like systems or components, and it's actually amazing. However, like on the early stages of mobile app development, that would be pretty much enough. It's just that the execution time, since I haven't seen like any options on how to run it in parallel, I guess this is like the cloud magic of the Maestro setup. And if you're like scale to hundreds of such tests, of course it's gonna take probably hours to complete with this approach. However, the Maestro Cloud might be a little bit pricey for you. But if you want your app to have high standard of quality, I would suggest using paid tools and premium tools. That's why they're built for, right? So once again, like, I'm super thankful for the Maestro team, because they're building stuff like this. I haven't seen any sort of, should I say, like explosions of new tools, or any trends or something like that. Like, it's always almost as if like the mobile automation testing and mobile testing in general, it's almost like it doesn't exist, And it's a shame, because nearly every single person on this planet, well, not everybody, I guess, but still, there's tons of people with smartphones, and they got like shitload amount of apps. And a shitload amount of apps is also being developed nowadays. But so, specific solutions like, family budgeting, for example, record keeping, like password storage vault or something like that, some custom authenticators, which are being used like in the intranets, in the internal nets of the organizations. If you think about it, it looks like an unclaimable field with like literally like thousands of different possibilities. I think that a lot of those guys want to increase the quality of their app and make sure be secure, stay calm, and without any worries, and be confident in having their like mobile app or sort of system snapshot, which this solution allows you to have. Or if you like pay $250 for the Maestro Cloud, it's gonna be, and like I've showed you that in previous videos, it's gonna be an amazing solution as well. So okay, enough of me yapping. I guess it's time. While this CI is still running, I've already like showed you everything. I'm giving you some philosophical like explanations in regards to this topic, and to the mobile QA automation in general. So this is something like which is super new and like super exciting personally for me. I would love to participate in a project, you know, where you need to automate a mobile app, like specifically Android. Or, you know, if I'm lucky enough to find a team, to find a mentor with the practical field experience, like this would be like a dream come true, because this is a new skill and, you know, just new field for me specifically. So yeah, and I understand that there's so much in depth to this framework that we don't yet know and yet about to discover, so, you know, it just blows my mind, you know, it's just like, I can't even describe this stuff. Alright, so yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and as always, take care, and see you in the next vids. Peace out.